My guest tonight, Craig Coombe, is the co-founder and chief executive officer of the Multiply Group, a leading sub-Saharan African private investment company that invests in people. Craig has spent a good part of his career pursuing his conviction that businesses can help to solve the social ills around us. And his passion for Africa has led him to create several business initiatives that has empowered previously disadvantaged people. Tonight we talk social transformation and his call to be a Joseph. This is Chim Africa.
From Cape Town to Cairo and from Mogadishu to Dakar, this is Chim's Talk Africa. Here's your host, Chim Onyebilanma.
Hi there, welcome to Chim's Talk Africa. I'm your host, Chim Onyebilanma. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always great to get your feedbacks. We got this message from a lady in Nigeria following the episode where we had John Obaro, the man whose electronic payment platform is helping to reduce waste and corruption in Nigeria. She said, "Hi, I watched your program tonight with Mr. John Obaro. It was great. Well done, sir. I was so blessed by what Mr. John Obaro said, that he believes if one door is closed, God is about to open a bigger one. Also blessed when he said we should not go the way of the world in doing business, that we should follow the principles of the kingdom." Thank you so much for sending that. We would love to hear from you watching us too. Let us know which subjects you would like us to tackle on this show, and suggest to us Christian change makers and leaders from your country or other countries in Africa you would like to see interviewed on this show, and we'll make our best effort to get them interviewed. My guest today, Craig Coombe, is another businessman who, just like John Obaro, is creating business initiatives that are helping to bridge the gap of inequality and solve some of society problems in South Africa and also in other parts of Africa. Let's go now to my interview with him. Please don't go away. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Like I said in the introduction, my guest today is Craig Coombe, and he is the CEO of the Multiply Group. Craig, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Craig, your group, Multiply Group, is an investment company, and it's spread out. It's not just South Africa. It's born from South Africa, but it works around the world. Can you tell us a bit about what Multiply is all about?
Sure. Yes, we're an investment company. We consider ourselves a global investment company with a very strong focus on Africa. So we've got investments and companies that operate across 11 countries in Africa, mostly sub-Saharan Africa. We also have links into Europe and into the US, particularly in terms of raising funding and looking at growing opportunities and links between Africa and the rest of the world.
Now, what made me invite you on this show is that you, for most of your life in the workplace, 25 odd years, 30 years, you have been involved in what is called social transformation. You have been involved in your own particular way using business to bring about change, basically in South Africa, but with an eye on Africa. And that's what I want us to talk about. It seems to me the root of your move towards social transformation, like pushing it, comes from your background with your dad and your grandmom, or did it come from your encounter with Christ in 1983?
Yeah, I think it came with my encounter with Christ, really.
You got saved in 1983?
I did, yes. Yeah.
What happened? What changed for you then?
I think when you look at Jesus correctly, it's a pretty radical man.
Okay.
And didn't just support the status quo. In fact, challenged the status quo more aggressively than anyone I know to this day. Challenged the politicians, challenged the church. And I think the apathy of the church during apartheid was something that really confronted me, and maybe as a young person who, you know, when you're young, you always want to shake the tree and create some change. Your parents never know anything. So I suppose there's a little bit of that
for
in
a
it.
teenager.
Yeah, but it was kind of, I suppose there was enough information that was being put into the system, and the Holy Spirit was doing something inside of me.
But you were pretty young. You were probably 13,
14, 15.
And were you able to process all of this then? A 14-year-old is thinking of girls. Well, not Craig, not Craig.
I was. I think I was. No, I think.
I'm thinking of you processing Jesus was not a conformist and all of that.
No, I would say that God
was
is laying foundations.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd say that by the time I was 18, 19, 20, 21, my early years at university, which you know, in the late 80s, early 90s, you know, that's where you started to get the voice for what maybe God was doing in inner work. A lot of the prophetic words over my life were the prophetic story of Joseph.
And in Egypt.
Yeah, and again, even then, I mean, I'll talk about it now, like I fully understood what that meant to me at that stage.
Yeah, but it's only looking hindsight.
It's only when you look back. But like, I really, you know, God was definitely doing something in me, and he gave me a lot of empathy. My father in particular had a lot of empathy, and I think that also helped. You know, when you started understanding what people were going through, it was very difficult to ignore it.
To just stay normal. I want us to go to the question I earlier thought I would have put to you. How do you conceive development, social transformation? Because people go about it in different ways. Right now, there is a lot of talk. For example, people believe that foreign aid coming into Africa hasn't helped much, that it's just been a means by which corrupt governments could just enrich themselves, and it hasn't translated into real change. Some people like you believe the answer is business, push business and let it work. Other people say, look, the key to all of this is education. Just hit education, you'll get it. And that's the heart of development. In you trying to approach this whole thing of bringing about social transformation in Africa, starting from South Africa, of course, where do you look? What do you put in front of you as the image to pursue, the goal?
No, I think for me, it starts at the heart. Because all of those you know, options are real options. I'm an and person. I'm not normally a person that says you can only do something like this. There's normally an and. You can do this and this and this and this.
Multiple roles,
So I think the broad answer is an and, but the underlying foundation upon which that and will work for all of those areas is a transformed heart. Because I think the challenge is we wrestle with ourselves, and I put myself there with all other human beings, is we tend towards selfishness, we tend towards looking after me, myself and I, and we think that looking after those three people is what it's all about. And I think the real heart of Christ and what he's about is he served everyone else. He gave up his life, he gave up everything. So I think if we can get to a space where we understand that, then yes, aid might be a part of a solution. And there might be, you know, I look at it in a community where there's destitute children or whatever. There's nothing wrong with helping people to get out of a space that they've got into. The risk with aid, unfortunately, is also creating a dependency, and also that aid doesn't usually come. I say that all finances have an agenda. It's just, is that agenda a good agenda or a negative agenda? It's just, and in those cases of aid, it can be both. I personally just believe that, you know, if you look at the parable of the talents, if you look at the story of the fish and the loaves, I mean, God gives us something always, and He expects us to work with what we've got. And as we diligent in the small things, more is given, and that is the story. I mean, even for me, my mother was very poor. She lived in a house that probably is not much better than a RDP home. You know, with lots of children in the home from 2 marriages, and you know, it wasn't that wasn't easy. And she's gone on a journey of stewarding small things along the way. So I'm a big believer in, you know, and it's not just a business agenda. It's not just business is the answer. Social transformation is in every sphere of life. It's how does the church bring about, and full-time people in the church context, how do they help bring about social transformation? How does a teacher help bring about social transformation?
Which we talked about the last time, that everybody has something to contribute. But for you, you're saying it's, first of all, a case of a heart transformation. It starts with the inner man. And that's where the gospel speaks into. It speaks to us selfishness, which Christ transforms through the gospel that comes in. And for you, the place to first aim for is that heart transformation.
Yeah.
And of course, coupled with that would be the mind transformation.
And I think also, you know, if you, like in business, you can say business is the answer, but if I'm greedy, all that happens is I make more money and I don't bring about transformation.
So if the heart is not right, any tool can become a wicked weapon to even destroy those who are already suffering. So it's not so much what you bring to the plate, but the heart to which you bring it. That immediately supposes that the church is the right institution or group of people to bring about this change. And I read in one of your bio, you said that you have a passion to see the church transform the world. How do you see the church's role in Africa?
Yeah, I think the church, unfortunately in Africa, we see church as groupings of people on a Sunday morning or afternoon in a building. For me, my understanding of the church is this army of people that follow Jesus Christ, that go out on a Monday morning and they turn the world upside down through the goodness and the mercy that they leave behind them as they go into crazy, messed up world that's out there. So I think the church has got a really significant role as church institutional, i.e. Sunday morning. But it's the conversation and the theology of that conversation needs to empower people for the week ahead, to bring Christ, to bring the salt and the light into every environment that people are going into. So church institution is a pivotal player, and that's why when I talk about the church, I talk about church institutional and their role. But then also we are the church. I've got a ministry of reconciliation. That's what Christ says, that I've got that responsibility, and that's not because I'm sit on some committee that deals with reconciliation. It doesn't mean I'm not a full-time person in a church environment. It's just in whatever I do, I'm reconciling heaven and earth. I'm bringing about Christ into the environment that I'm doing, and I'm not saying I do that well. I mean, I think the challenge with this is I speak like this, and I speak strongly about it because I have to keep reminding myself
what is all about,
of what's at stake here. Because I can easily just get lazy and frustrated and disillusioned or whatever it is. So I think linked to that, what we've been talking amongst different communities, and I'm just talking about building communities of courage that are courageous enough to face these realities, to have these conversations, to hold each other accountable, but also to support each other when it's difficult times. Because
it's so easy to stay within your comfort zone and just cater for yourself and what's around you. It takes courage, and I like the word you used to move from Sunday to Monday as the guy who brings the solution. We'll take a break, and I'll ask you immediately we come back about your Joseph prophecy. Their viewers at home and our audience here, we've been talking to Craig Coombe, who is the CEO of Multiply Group. We'll take a break now. We'll come back to this conversation. Don't go away.
Do you have any opinions or comments on today's subject or any other issues in your country or around Africa? We would love for you to join the conversation. Please send us your comments by WhatsApp video, voice, or text message to the number on your screen, or via Facebook, Twitter, or email. We may be able to include your text, audio, or video comment on a future show.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome back to the second and the last part of our conversation with Craig Coombe. Craig, you kept alluding to a word or prophecy that was spoken over you, which had to do with the story of Joseph. Do you want to walk us through how this happened? Did somebody just walk up to you? Or did it happen at various times in your life that the word Joseph, how did it come to you?
Yeah, so when I was probably 13, I committed my life.
Yeah.
And in the next 3 or 4 years, on a number of occasions, so it wasn't just one one occasion, this became a consistent conversation. And it's funny, we don't often listen to the prophetic words on our life or pay enough attention to them. Maybe we listen, we're aware of them, but we...
Was this from different sources?
Different people, And then, but I already had a heart to help people, so I decided how best to help people. I'm going to become a doctor, okay? Now,
even at 13, you'd made up your mind?
I decided I was going to be a doctor. I'm going to help people. And again, if I'd listened to my prophetic word, there wasn't much around
being a doctor,
But it was good because it was a vision, and it says in the Bible, without a vision, people perish. And if you look at the statistics, people with a 5-year vision really outperform anyone who doesn't have a vision. So that's science has reinforced the biblical understanding of that. But anyway, it meant I worked hard, so at least I got decent results. But I didn't get into the course that I wanted to get into. I wasn't smart enough. And then what happened is over a week, like literally I transitioned into the business stream through a number of conversations, and I was good at maths and accounting, so I went that route. But it was interesting when I look back. I mean, if I'd really thought about it carefully and what this prophetic word meant, I mean, Joseph was a commodity trader. I mean, it's this.
I never thought of him like that.
He had a supernatural understanding that there were going to be these seasonal fluctuations that were going to cause a time of plenty and a time of scarcity. And in that time, he took enormous risk because he had to work for a pretty corrupt leader. To be quite honest, probably one of the nastiest bosses most of us could have. But he took a lot of risk, and he built grain silos, and he bought and he stored it. But he did it for the redemption of a region in the future. And I think that was what as I've looked back and I've understood and I unpacked it, that's what I've understood God to have been saying when I was 13, 14 years old.
So many times we get a prophecy, we don't quite get it, and it's only later it starts to dawn on us how much important it is for us to at least store it somewhere and not forget. But because at least you remembered later that was one thing they were saying to me, and suddenly it becomes a mirror or kind of a pointer to where you should be going, because much of what you've done in investment is close to Joseph. As an investor in the commodity trade he was doing and preparing for the future. And how has this prophecy guided you?
Yes, I think what it when I say I said earlier that I don't think I've done nearly what I need to do. I think God's assignment on my life is much more to come, and the reason for that is because for many years I was seeing that unclearly. It's just become clearer and clearer as I've got older, and therefore I feel that sense of increasing responsibility to just kind of discharge that. But it's a very interesting engagement, and because I'm a futurist that's my number one strength. And that's something God just put in me. I suppose we all carry a different strength set, but that's my strength set. But I've always wrestled with God as to, you'd say have a vision, without a vision you perish, but you also say you've preordained our direction. How do these two things work together, And what I realized is that vision that we have, actually God put in our hearts, and therefore we're just rolling out. We're just implementing his preordained path.
It's like he gives us a sneak peek of what is to come.
What is to come. So even all our grand planning that we do ourselves, and I think it's just made me more deliberate in my planning, and in even our business. I mean, we put what we're doing to God more openly, because as we come up with ideas, they're not our ideas.
Yeah.
They are hopefully God's ideas.
You're seeking his face. I love that scripture that says, look to the Lord for his strength and seek his face at all times. So that you're understanding that the kind of vision God wants for us is actually to catch a vision of his vision.
Correct.
To see what he wants.
Yeah.
And that becomes our roadmap, and what we're doing becomes what he has planned to do.
Yeah.
Isn't that exciting, Craig?
Yeah. And I think what's exciting about it as well is you realize that you're just co-working with God and his plans.
That's
so
exactly.
your boss is God. I mean, it's quite that's quite empowering, you know. Sometimes we, you know, certainly as
that
somebody
must have helped
leading.
Joseph a lot in Egypt, huh?
Yeah.
Because the kind of boss he had, like you said, wasn't the very good one, but he knew his boss was God ultimately.
Yeah. You know, the beauty of the African continent is Christ is alive in it, and I think we've just got to open the doors of the church a little wider, and go out to the people, not expect
for
people
them to come
into
us.
the space. Yeah.
Because that word says go, it doesn't say make them come. Let me ask you this question. You keep repeating you're an African. The guy watching from Kenya there goes, that's a white guy there. Or the guy watching from Lagos is looking at, who is Chim interviewing this week? He keeps calling himself an African. How do you respond to that guy, especially in your understanding of yourself as an African? And this is I'm putting you on the spot here. You're not on the spot. I don't know if you've ever had this question asked.
Look, it's my biggest challenge as a white African.
Yeah.
Is that you get very sunburned. But but the reality
that's your
is,
cross.
Yeah, that's a cross I have to bear. So no, look, I think there's two responses.
Yeah.
The one is, you know, it is a wrestle because you feel like an alien in a foreign land. And sometimes there are a lot of people who will just leave the continent and say, well, look, this is Africa's for black people.
Yeah.
But I've felt that I've got a heart for Africa.
Yeah.
My family's got a heart for Africa. Even my two children, they both got one a Xhosa and one a Zulu middle names.
You gave them that?
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
Because I felt, you know...
That's beautiful.
In the system I came out of, many Zulu people, for example, would have an English middle name.
Yeah.
But the reason I did it is I wanted my children to know it doesn't matter if you can run and you can hide from Africa.
But this is where you're from.
But you're African.
I think a name has a lot in terms of its prophecy over you. So what I hear you saying that you are an African because you are rooted here, you are born here, and your heart is here.
Correct,
am I correct?
100%.
And here is you serving as a Joseph right here in this place.
Yeah, and I think also the challenge with Africa is we can look at it through, I'm from a white tribe. There's many tribes in Africa.
Many.
And one of our challenges as Africa has been the tribalism that's often broken us apart and brought us
instead
together.
Of bringing us together.
So for me, I understand that. I mean, in a sense, it is genuinely a burden because you know, my skin color has been linked 100% statistically, scientifically, to a lot damage.
Yeah, people immediately associate that to.
Yeah, and I can't run and hide from that. That's maybe some fancy technology can help me in the future. but so again, that's what I have to face, and with that comes being misunderstood. Misunderstanding. So there's many components to this, but I think that's, again, it's a challenge, but it's an opportunity.
But it links me back to your calling as a Joseph. Joseph had to operate as a foreigner, an Egyptian who was a foreigner. He became an Egyptian, and yet he wasn't an Egyptian. And here he was in the heights of Egypt, operating as a top Egyptian, yet he knew all the while that he was not Egyptian, yet he was Egyptian.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you use that as an example, because the thing that's powered me through the being misunderstood has been that God doesn't use the status quo almost ever. And if you look through Daniel, Esther, you go through the biblical characters of great faith and impact, most of them were foreigners and aliens in the land.
Craig, thank you so much for your time with us. We'll give him a round of applause, and we're going to land this here. Hi there, welcome back. Do you know that there are still untold millions that are still untold of the good news of Jesus? In John 9:36, the Bible says, after Jesus had healed a blind man who was blind from birth and asked him to follow the Messiah, the man replied and said, "Who is he, sir? Tell me that I may believe in him." This man wanted to believe in the Messiah, but he didn't know who he was. There are many for whom the only reason they had not yet believed in Christ is that no one has told them about him yet. We only need to open our eyes. Even in our big cities all across Africa, there are thousands who have not yet been told. Millions of immigrants from the ends of the earth are now becoming our neighbors. They have their own ideas about Jesus, but they need someone to lovingly and boldly tell them the truth about Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Then if we lift up our eyes even further into the harvest fields of the world, we'll catch a glimpse of the untold millions of souls in the thousands of ethnic groups in the world today, still without someone to tell them of Jesus. One day, my wife and I were visiting a village in the interiors of northern Nigeria. We saw an elderly man. As he approached us, he lost his balance on his bicycle and fell off. And so did the large stack of firewood he was carrying at the back of the bicycle, which was what even made him lose the balance in the first place. He fell off. I could just picture his several wives and daughter-in-laws in the round huts in his compound, waiting for these logs of wood that will provide fuel to feed that usually large extended family. We stopped to help this man reload his wood, and he was ever so grateful. Then we told him that we are doing this because of the love of Jesus. And we asked him, "Sir, have you ever heard about Jesus?" At this, he replied, "My friends, you see, I can't afford to buy a radio, so I do not get to hear of all these important political leaders of ours." Do you know how shocked I was? It was really touching to realize that this man had no notion at all about Jesus. The name didn't ring a bell. He thought that since he sounded like an important person, he must be a political leader. He had not heard simply because no one had ever told him. The Bible tells us that when the man in John chapter 9 was told who Jesus was, he worshipped him. The only thing keeping worship from rising to Jesus from many nations today is that no man has told them yet. God seeks worshipers from all nations. We need to catch the vision, a vision for the nations of the world. We need to catch the vision of what we can do as individuals. We need to catch a vision of what our prayers can do. Prayer can unlock doors, thrust forth laborers, and soften the heart of those who will hear the gospel. We need to catch a vision of what sacrificial giving can do. We need to turn our backs on the selfishness and pettiness of our age and become kingdom-minded Christians. Our finance can give wheels to get the gospel to the ends of the earth. I wish I could impress it on your heart just how much the lack of funds is hindering the work of evangelizing the remaining unreached peoples in many places today. And oh, how much so many of us need to catch a vision to go. For some, it might just be a case of going across the street, or it might be going overseas for a short time or going long term. Whatever the case, the fact is the laborers are few. The gospel will never get to those who it was meant for if no one takes it to them. I want to challenge you to go or to become the person who sends someone today. If you want to get involved in one way or the other, please contact us with the numbers on the screen and we'll help you get involved. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel today. See you next week and may God richly bless you. Bye-bye. Next week on Chim Talk Africa, by popular demand, Dr. John Mpapuli returns with more answers to managing our finances God's way within an African context.
The three keys are, number one is how to make money. That will be based on verse number 1 of Genesis chapter 1. Number 2 will be, if I make money, how do I keep the money that I've made? That will be Genesis chapter 1 verse 6. Number 3 will be, how do I then grow the money that I have made and I've kept? How do I grow it?
Next week on Chim Talk Africa.
This program is made possible by the generous financial support of believers just like you, who share our heart to equip the African church to engage the issues facing our continent. Your financial support will help us continue this important work. If you feel led to give to this ministry, please visit our website today.